of everything Rand Paul says, which is again why I'm not voting for him and can't vote in general anyway. But that's not a joke. I really cannot vote. But I don't think I would vote for him even if I could. I'd probably vote for somebody in the possibly Libertarian Party, Constitution Party. If there's an anarchist party, I'd vote for that one. Pirate Party, not so much because they're kind of statist actually. So I wouldn't really go for that one. It's kind of ironic that the Pirate Party is a little bit statist, but I can't really find anyone who I'm comfortable voting for. So people will go with the argument, the old age-old argument, well, lesser of two evils, right? Just vote for the lesser of two evils. It doesn't really work that way for me, though. Voting for the lesser of two evils is still voting for an evil, and I really can't bring myself to do that. Well, like back in the 2012 elections, I was not yet 18 during the 2012 elections, and I was thinking about what if I were, given the choice, the very poor choices that we had, where it was Mitt Romney versus Barack Obama, and people keep saying to me, well, I'll vote for Mitt Romney, at least he'd be better than Barack Obama. But that doesn't really seem to be the case, actually, because Mitt Romney, of course, supported the different operations in Syria, which are obviously reprehensible, so I couldn't really go for that. He seemed to be a bit of a war hawk anyway, so a vote for him would not be in my best interests. Obviously, I'm going to be voting for my best interests because I, as an individual, recognize my own best interests and will vote for those. So I couldn't, in good conscience, vote for either of the major candidates. So I would, of course, vote for a third party if someone were holding a gun to my head asking me to vote, or rather, demanding me to vote. So if I were voting for my conscience, I would have to vote for a third party. And then people say, well, you're throwing your vote away. A vote for a third party is a vote for the Democrats or something like that, says the person who doesn't understand how voting or rights or liberties or anything like that works. It's a very frustrating climate we have where there's sort of this, as my friend put it, my friend is a very eloquent person, and he's very, very funny sometimes, and he put voting this way. He says, voting is treated by a lot of Americans kind of like the holy sacrament of the Lord's Supper, right? Where you have the pastor up there who's just begging you, and we'll say the pastor is Uncle Sam, right, who's wearing American flag attire, and the pastor is begging you, please, you have two choices. You have the chalice filled with the red of the Republican Party or what have you, and you have the bread of the Democratic Party, and you can choose one or the other, but not both. And if you dare to choose something else, you're probably a pagan and you're going to hell. And that's sort of the climate that we have here in the States, where it's either or. You have to be either a Republican or a Democrat, and if you don't identify as either, you're probably kind of un-American, or you're one of those libertarian wackos. So it's unfortunate that people think that way, but I'm sure they're very much encouraged to think that way by their local Republican National Convention anyway. So it's very obnoxious. People who tend to vote either way are very obnoxious people anyway. But this is Digital Drive. I'm your host, Russell. We're talking about technology and quite a bit more. We sort of got off on a tangent because we were talking about the Patriot Act. Don't worry, there's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot actually going on in tech news and in world news in general. I tend to get off on tangents because I'm also a news director here at Hot News Talk Radio, so I sort of go off on tangents, and because I've read news a lot, I kind of have to do that for my job, so I sort of go off on a whim, I guess. But this is Digital Drive. I'm your host, Russell. We're talking about technology and quite a bit more. You can call in if you want to at 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949. You can also come and firebomb the studio, which I'm sure somebody's going to do because I'm very inflammatory. I'm very mean. I'm a very mean person, so probably somebody's going to come and firebomb the studio because of how mean I am. But a county sheriff over in San Bernardino in California has used a Stingray device over 300 times without a warrant. The sheriff in San Bernardino County, according to Ars Technica, which is east of Los Angeles County, has now deployed his Stingray hundreds of times without any warrant and under questionable judicial authority. Not good. Now, a Stingray device, of course, is what's used to capture cell phone information. It can get your location. It can get information that's being sent from your cell phone to the cell tower to another cell phone, such as SMSs, short message services, i.e. text messages, voice calls, and sometimes 4G LTE data transmissions as well can be captured by Stingray devices. So they're very, very broad in what they capture, because they capture quite a lot, actually. It's an astounding amount of information that can be had with these just one device. It's really scary, actually. But with this one device, a sheriff has used it apparently over 300 times, allegedly now, without a warrant. Now, that's not legal at all, and this sheriff should be thrown in jail, obviously. But in response to a public records request, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department sent Ars Technica, among several other news outlets, a rare example of template for a pen register and trap and trace order application. In that letter, county lawyers claimed that this was a warrant application template when it clearly is not. The SBSD is the law enforcement agency for the entire county. That's the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. It's the 12th most populous county in the United States and the 5th most populous county in California. Stingrays, or cell site simulators, can now be used to determine the location of a cell tower or a cell phone by spoofing a cell tower, but they can also be used to intercept calls and text messages. Once it's been deployed, the devices intercept data from a target phone, as well as information from other phones within the vicinity. I should say. For years, federal and local law enforcement have tried to keep their existence a secret while simultaneously upgrading their capabilities. Over the last year, as the devices have become scrutinized, new information about the secretive devices has been revealed. Now, obviously, the usage of these devices without a warrant is highly illegal. After all, it's a violation of the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, yet again, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. And I think a cell phone would sort of fall under the papers and effects part. Against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and persons or things to be seized. Now, it's not just that they got a very broad warrant, it's that they didn't get a warrant at all. They, of course, being whoever the sheriff's personnel were, be it the sheriff himself or one of his deputies, doesn't really matter, didn't get any form of warrant whatsoever, which makes this highly illegal. Now, are we going to see any arrests out of this? Are we going to see any firings? Are we going to see any ramifications whatsoever? Possibly not, and that's where things start to get really obnoxious to me. Think about it this way. If it was discovered that I have been stealing information from your cell phone, you'd want to beat the crap out of me, probably, and rightfully so. You should. But I would not. I would probably go to jail for a really long time for wiretapping and the Computer Fraud Abuse Act and all sorts of different things. I would go to jail for a really long time. But a sheriff's office does exactly the same thing. A sheriff's department does exactly the same thing. Probably paid leave is the worst thing we're going to see. There's obviously a bias that's away from the police. There's a bias that's away from the sheriff's departments and the police officers, and it's very unfortunate that we have this climate where they sort of get off scot-free with no ramifications whatsoever. Fortunately, we have websites like the Free Thought Project and Cop Block and Filming Cops and other such things that sort of work to keep an eye on that, but we don't really have that so much in a federal capacity.
This is a mob mode. This is the mob mode. What kind of fool do you think I am? You think I know nothing about my...
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Hi, this is your computer speaking. I don't feel so well. It's like I've come down with a bug, and I'm getting slower.
Affordable Computers. We fix sick computers. Your hometown guys at Affordable Computers will repair your PC in half the time of the big boys at an affordable price. No tricks, no gimmicks, no computer speak technobabble. Just good, quick, and courteous affordable service and repairs. Want to affordably supercharge your PC? Affordable Computers on Highway 58. Affordable Computers hand builds all desktops in-house. If you're looking for a better-than-new refurb laptop, $150 will get you a Dell or another name brand at Affordable Computers. Affordable Computers, Highway 58, between Arby's and Taco Bell. Also Fort O, Battlefield Parkway, near Holcomb's. Affordable Computers, we service what we sell. Call 499-1975. That's 499-1975.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm feeling great. Supercharged.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. A warning to people in rain-soaked parts of Texas.
I want to urge folks to not go out looking for floodwaters to see.
The mayor of Houston saying in her city alone there are 2 confirmed fatalities today
The storm system dumping up to 10 inches of rain on the Houston metro area yesterday. People just ditching their cars along the road. The water rose so fast. Conditions so bad, fans at the Toyota Center for the Houston Rockets playoff game advised not to leave. About 200 people stayed at the arena overnight.
Fox's Casey Stiegel in Ramadi, a major push by Iraqi forces to retake the city from ISIS militants. And home prices here up at a steady pace in March from a year ago, pushed higher by a limited supply of houses for sale, according to the Standard & Poor's Case-Shiller 20-City Home Price Index. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You love your hometown. Are you interested in free markets, in local economy? Do you hope that Chattanooga can survive the next meltdown, the next chain of disasters in the national economy? What's the best way to live out the ideals of self-government and self-determination? Join me, David Toulis, weekdays 1 to 3.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Love your neighbor, buy local.
Fox News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Well, believe it or not, it's I know it's kind of an odd idea nowadays, but believe it or not, law enforcement, peace officers, whatever, actually do need warrants in order to search your property. It's a simple enough concept. Well, you'd think anyway. But people who are within sheriff's departments and who are within police departments and such tend to have a lower IQ anyway, so it's a little bit hard for them to understand these concepts. But it is simple for the thinking man, for you and for I. It's very easy. Or for you and for me, I should say. I say I'm a thinking man that I don't know how grammar works, but anyway, that's what I get. My mom's an English major, so I always catch these, things. And of course, David Toulis of Nuganomics.com. He's also a very well-educated man. He went to a school of sorts. He went to a university, and so anytime I make a grammatical error, he leaps to the occasion to inform me of my mistake, and I do appreciate it. Actually, I'm not saying that in a passive aggressive way. I truly do appreciate his efforts to correct my speech, because without him, I'd probably sound a lot worse than I do already. So thank you, David Toulis of Nuganomics.com, who wrote a really good essay, which we're actually going to talk about in a second here as well. But this is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is on Twitter, where you report, the world decides. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com, click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio saves you money. That's AM 1240 at Hot News Talk Radio. And there's a nice little car lot that we've been keeping our eye on called Automax, where used cars are sometimes $2,000 less than other lots. It's an unpretentious little car lot just east of Central High School on Highway 58, where Louis has low overhead, no staff, and he does it all himself, and he's passing the savings on to you. Everyone can get a car and even rebuild credit as well, because they report to all the major credit agencies. That's Automax at 643-2886. You can ask for Louis, and that's east of Central High on Highway 58. Ask for Louis and tell him that you heard about us here on Hot News Talk Radio, and you heard about his Automax, I should say, on Hot News Talk Radio. 643-2886 is his number, and ask for Louis and tell him that you heard about him on Hot News Talk Radio, and we greatly appreciate that. So we're looking at this very disturbing case, I guess. It's a very, very scary thing that's been going on with the sheriff over in San Bernardino County. Now, you might be thinking, Russell, why are you talking about San Bernardino County? That's a long ways away, right? That's on the other coast, right? The West Coast is supposedly the best coast. I would disagree. I think the East Coast is much better, but there are people on the West Coast who disagree with that too. So we'll just let you have at it, and you can stick with your micronationalism if you think that your area is the best. That's cool. But anyway, San Bernardino County is still a long ways away from here. It's something like a 40-hour drive. I mean, it's a long ways away. What does that have to do with us here? Well, anything that could happen there could probably happen here as well. In fact, may have already. So you have to keep that in mind when we're talking about different events that are occurring over in San Bernardino County or in Los Angeles County or in San Francisco, what have you, all the different places all over the world, all over the country, like Erie County up in New York State, where we had a case of different police agencies, I believe the Sheriff's Department in that case as well, using stingray devices unconstitutionally, illegally. And that's important to us because it could happen here and very well may have actually, except not directly being used by the Sheriff's Department or the police department. It may have been used by the U.S. Marshal Service. You may have heard about the case where there's a man who was nabbed just recently. He was nabbed and he was somehow identified by the U.S. Marshal Service, and they found out his exact location inside a house, and his girlfriend was arrested and charged for lying to police about his location as well. But somehow they found out his location, and I'm suspecting that they used a cell site simulator. It's an otherwise sort of unassuming case where a fugitive was caught inside a house, yada, yada. They fired upwards of 20 gas canisters inside the house, and they were surprised they didn't succumb to consumption from these gas canisters. But either way, it seems like an unpretentious little story. It seems like a very, very common thing where a fugitive was captured. You don't really think much of it. But nevertheless, there's actually a whole lot more to it. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes, it would seem, with this story about a man who was captured in, I believe, Rossville inside of a house. But anyway, in San Bernardino County, we can now confirm that cell site simulators have been used, in fact, illegally without warrant, which makes it illegal. If something is seized by police without warrant, it's illegal. It's simple as that. They have to get a warrant, which is supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and persons or things to be seized. So it's very simple. That's law. You know, people can talk about all day how the NSA surveillance is a good and just thing. I don't really care because it's still illegal. It's unjust. It's not right, and it's unconstitutional on top of all of that. So there's really no defense of it that can make an argument for its constitutionality, because it's simply not. And you might say that it's the government trying to protect the people. I don't think they should do that anyway, because they do a very poor job of it, and I don't appreciate it when they do. So that's argument sort of null on me anyway. Now, I'm not talking about, when I talk about the police rather the government protecting people, I'm not talking about service members. That's a completely different story. I'm talking about the different agencies. When we're talking about NSA, FBI, CIA, what have you, I definitely don't appreciate or support those different agencies. If we're talking about service members, that's a completely different story. I certainly do appreciate the efforts that they've made, but we're talking about, of course, we're talking about the different agencies, not the service people. That's a whole nother thing. Don't be confused as to my efforts here, what I'm trying to say. So I definitely don't appreciate the efforts of the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the NRO, whatever, what have you, US SOCOM. I definitely don't appreciate their efforts to try to protect me, because it certainly doesn't do a very good job. And I really don't want their protection anyway, because they're doing a poor job of it, and they're actually hurting me in the process. Well, in response to a public records request, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department sent Ars Technica, along with several other outlets, and this is coming from Ars Technica, by the way, a rare example of a template for a pen register trap and trace order application. In the letter, the county lawyers are claiming that it was actually a warrant application template when it's not, so they're lying about that. The SBSD, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, is the law enforcement agency for the entire county, which is the 12th most populous county in the United States, San Bernardino County is, and the 5th most populous in California. Stingrays, or cell site simulators, can be used to determine location by spoofing a cell phone tower, but they can also be used to intercept calls and text messages. Once it's been deployed, these devices can intercept data from a target phone, as well as information from other phones which are within the vicinity. So they claim that they can dump all that information, and they don't use it, and they only use information that's pertinent to their particular investigation. I don't know if that's true or not, but they're still capturing information illegally anyway, so that doesn't particularly matter. But the template application, surprisingly, cites no legal authority on which it's basing its activities, so the SBSD did not respond to any request for comment either. So it's appearing that they're operating with no authority and no oversight, other than just their own granted authority and their own granted oversight, which makes it, of course, illegal. This is a crime, what's been going on. It's plain and simple a crime and wrong and illegal. So it seems like it should be quite a simple matter to shut this down. But that might not be the case. That's where things start to get really obnoxious. Now, if I did this, oh man, I would be in so much trouble if I, your host here at Digital Drive, Russell, decided that I'm going to spy on your cell phone because I don't really trust you. You might be a terrorist. So I set up a little cell site simulator device that I've built for a few $1,000s. It can be done. I build it and I set it up in my office here at Hot News Talk Radio in our studios. And let's say you work upstairs. There are people who work upstairs. And I capture your cell phone information to find out just what you've been doing because I think you might be a terrorist. Well, that's illegal on many different counts, thousands of different reasons that's illegal. And of course, the biggest one is the violation of your Fourth Amendment rights that I violated upon you. It's also illegal because I've stolen your information, or if not from you, I've stolen information from a cell phone provider. So there's many different ways this could be construed as being illegal. Not only that, I've potentially disrupted your cell phone signal as well, which would be a violation of FCC regulations. So I could be fined by the FCC as well. There's a lot of different problems that would go on with this. So I've illegally stolen information from you, from a cell company, possibly jammed your transmissions, which is an FCC penalty, civil, of course. So there's a lot of different things that could go on here. Now, that's if I, as a private citizen, have done this, as a resident of these United States. If I did that, those are the problems that would be facing me, and probably quite a few more. But if a officer of the law, if a sheriff's deputy does exactly the same thing and calls it something that he's legally allowed to do, then not really much happens in terms of punishment. Maybe paid leave, maybe. And that's asking for a lot anyway. That's the best that we'll see out of this. And it's shameful. It's simply shameful that these people are held to a higher degree than we are. How is it that public servants are somehow seen as a higher people than we are? You know, we're your average people, right? Like, I'm an average guy. I do very average things. I'm not a very interesting person as a person. Now, I like to think that what I talk about on the show is pretty interesting, but when it comes to what I do, my regular everyday activities, I'm very normal. I play computer games with my friends. I drive around in my car. I go see movies sometimes. That's my everyday life. You know, I'm really boring, actually. But I'm just an average guy. But somehow I'm held at a lower regard than an officer of the law who's supposed to be actually my servant. I'm paying his salary with sales taxes and such, and yet somehow he's on a higher plane than I am. And this idea, this climate is often seen, actually. This is not a rare idea in different videos, which you can see on Free Thought Project, on Cop Block, on Filming Cops, various different websites. Now, you might argue that those are a little bit biased. Perhaps they are. But it's a bias that's opposite to what you see in the media. So you have one bias and you have another bias, and there's no such thing as an unbiased media anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter if it is biased or not. I'm very biased, but this is an opinion show anyway, so it's not really a matter for debate whether I'm biased or not. Of course I am. Everybody is. There's no such thing as unbiased reporting. There's no such thing as fair and balanced reporting, I might add. It simply can't happen. Well, this is astonishing, they say, says Fred Kate, who's a law professor at Indiana University. He told our Seneca this by mail. He says, this is astonishing because it suggests the absence of legal authorization, because if there were clear legal authorization, you can bet that the government would be citing it. So what he's saying here is that if this sheriff's department had a legal authorization from some federal government somewhere, then they would obviously be quoting that. You know, that would be somewhere in their paper. That would be somewhere in their paperwork. You'd be seeing, we do this under permission from U.S. SOCOM, or we do this under permission from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or we do this from papers signed by the Department of Justice, or whatever. You know, it doesn't really matter what the permission would be. If they had it, they would be citing it. You know they would be. But they're not. So that suggests something a little bit nefarious is going on, right? That suggests something a little bit off color is happening here. Something is not right over here in San Bernardino County. So because they're not citing any sort of authority to do what they're doing, this suggests to me that they have none. Well, of course, they don't have any anyway. Even if permission was granted to them by the FBI, they don't actually have the authority to do so, because it's illegal. But nevertheless, they're not citing any sort of pretended authority, meaning that they don't even think that they have it, but they're doing it anyway because they can get away with it because they're cops or they're sheriff's deputies. So that's where the problem starts to arise. Well, that's where another problem starts to arise, is they've granted their own authority. Now, this is not an uncommon thing. After all, where do oversight committees come from when they're from within a particular organization? Well, we're doing an internal review. So somebody on the inside is reviewing a event which happened on the inside, and really the worst thing that's going to happen is a paid vacation. We'll call it punishment, and that's always what happens. So authority is granted to these agencies by these agencies, and it's really unfortunate that this keeps happening because nobody seems to be making much of a stink about it on any sort of city council level or anything like that. Nobody seems to want to question the authority of the police, because if you do so, you're probably a terrorist. Well, alternatively, it might suggest that the government just doesn't care about legal authorization, which is where I tend to lean. Either interpretation is profoundly troubling, says Mr. Fred Kate, who's a law professor at Indiana University. That's what he said to our friends over at Ars Technica by an email. The documents sent to Ars Technica by the SBSD's county attorneys also show that since acquiring a Stingray in late August of 2012, the agency has used it 303 times between January 1st, 2014 and May the 7th, 2015. 303 times within the space of a little over a year. So that means once every other day or so, they've used a cell site simulator to gather information. Further, the SBSD, like other departments nationwide, maintains a questionable non-disclosure agreement with the FBI that indicates that the agency will work with local prosecuting authority to dismiss cases rather than reveal information in court about these Stingray devices. This has happened in at least some known jurisdictions elsewhere in the country, such as Erie County in New York State. Now, this means what we can surmise from this is that this information is being seized illegally, and they know it's illegal. And despite knowing that it's illegal, they'll continue to do it. But if they get caught, they'll try to drop the case entirely, because after all, they have the authority to do that, right? If something that is going on that we'll see as wrong is going on, then all they have to do is deny that it's happening altogether, or say that it's really not an important matter and you shouldn't be asking questions anyway. That's also what's happening here as well, with the FBI signing non-disclosure, or rather these different agencies signing non-disclosure agreements with the FBI. And the FBI has finally addressed that, saying that they actually aren't non-disclosure agreements at all, even though the documents themselves deny that. So it's not really clear what the FBI is going for here. Just last week, the FBI released a statement regarding the use of stingrays, which claims that the opposite of its NDA is true, with local law enforcement actually saying that the FBI is lying now, apparently. The SBSD, again, San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, also declined to produce, policies, guidelines, training materials, or specific cases where stingrays are used. So we don't know how they're being used. We just know that they are being used. And that's the most information we can surmise. So unfortunately, the only information we can get is that, yes, these devices were used 303 times between these two specific dates, but you'll never know what they were used for, because that's a matter of national security. The FBI and their buddies over at the Harris Corporation, the manufacturer of Stingray devices, have repeatedly declined to respond to ours' request for comment, or my request for comment, or anyone else's requests for comment, unfortunately. Detectives typically go to a local judge before they want to deploy this particular device, and they file an application for a pen register trap and trace order, whose orders are often sealed even well after the case has been concluded, so there's actually little public scrutiny, and this is by design, of course. But as is the case in most jurisdictions nationwide, the application to the court is not very explicit about what exactly law enforcement wants to do or how exactly it's going to be carried out. Again, violation of the Fourth Amendment, because it's describing the place to be searched and persons or things to be seized, particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So even when they file a warrant, it's an unconstitutional warrant because they're not being specific enough. They're being very general. So even when they do file warrants, they're illegal warrants anyway. So even these different agencies, which claim to have sworn to uphold the Constitution, are doing a very poor job of it, because I don't think they've actually read the thing since elementary school anyway. Well, as is the case in most jurisdictions worldwide, this is exactly what's happening. This is precisely the reason why Washington State just signed into law a new warrant requirement for stingray use, which also imposes stringent disclosure and data minimization standards. A similar bill in California is now pending in the state legislature. Whether or not it will pass, we don't know. But if it does, we'll keep you updated here on Hot News Talk Radio, because I'm definitely interested in seeing what goes on with this particular bill in the California Senate. Now, you might again say that, what does it have to do with us in California? This is California, and that was New York State, and that's Washington State. These are places which may as well be a million miles away, because we're here in Chattanooga or in Ringgold or Rossville or Hickson or Saudi Daisy or wherever we are. That's where we are, which is in the Southeast, which is quite far away from California and Washington State and even New York State. It's quite a long ways away. What does that have to do with us? Well, it has a lot to do with us because this is done under so-called federal authority. These devices are usually handed out to them from the FBI, which means that they could very easily be handed out to agencies here and may actually have been. Going by a case that just recently happened here in Rossville, where a man was tracked down to a house under very mysterious circumstances, thanks to our friends over in the U.S. Federal Marshals. Very mysterious circumstances, and that situation was actually my attention was called to that by our friend here at Hot News Talk Radio, David Toulis, who has a show which is coming up in about 20 or so minutes here on Hot News Talk Radio. His show is Nuganomics.com, where he talks about local economy and free markets from a very Nuga-centric position, which can and should be applied to any other place anywhere, because it's you might consider it, as I've coined, and you can use again, I certainly wish you would, reverse carpetbagging. Because we're taking very Southern ideas and trying to move them upward, trying to move them all over the place. Because really, it's the right way to think. It's not just that this is applicable only to us in the South. Now, it's certainly Southerners sort of already have this mindset of local economy, I would think, because we're very neighborly people anyway. We're very slow-moving, very neighborly people, sort of unlike how they are up in New York City. I've been there, I can tell you. But anyway, we're very much in tune with the local economy idea, so it doesn't really take a whole lot of effort to convince people that this is the right way to think. But this could be applied anywhere in the world, and we certainly wish that it would be. This is not something that's unique to the South, although it does certainly cater itself to the South very well, and I'm happy that that's the case. And his show is Nuganomics.com, right here at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, which is where we reside. And he just wrote a really, really good essay that I read very briefly over the break. I had to read it really quickly because I'm a fast reader thanks to my home education. It's about rights and how the individual is actually kind of applicable or is analogous to a porcupine. It's a really good analogy that was made where you have so many different rights, 120 something odd rights that they're innumerable, all these different rights that you have. And it's very dangerous to the state how many rights you have, be it digitally or in the real world or off world or in the sea or what have you. There are different rights that are sometimes recognized and sometimes not. They still exist either way. You have these rights. And this is a very dangerous thing to the federal government. It's a very dangerous thing to your state government, to your county government, to your local government, what have you. It's a very dangerous thing to any officer of the law, so-called, because you can assert this right and question their authority. You have the right actually to question their authority. You have the right to ask questions. You have a right to receive answers to those questions. Sometimes you have a right to a lot of different things. And once you assert those rights, people who are in power, who are just sort of hoping that you'll unquestioningly go along with whatever they say, become very nervous because, oh, this is a guy who knows what he's talking about. And that's where things start to get dangerous. Now, the counter argument to that is, well, if you just don't break the law, then you won't have to worry about the cops. Well, actually, that's been proven not to be true because you can have people who are very clearly abiding by the law, say they're open carrying or concealed carrying or what have you, who are still accosted by the police despite having done nothing wrong or illegal or anything. Notice I separate wrong and illegal because something can be illegal despite not being wrong or, say, sinful. Okay, as an example. It's illegal, actually, to go above the speed limit, they'll say. You can be fined for going above an arbitrary number that's on the road. Now, it's not a sin to do that, but it's still not necessarily legal. That's where the separation occurs. Something can be illegal without being wrong or a sin or what have you. And oftentimes, I think a lot of things that are illegal are actually totally okay to do. And that's sort of where the unfortunate divide occurs. And people will tell you, just don't break the law and you won't have trouble. Well, it's very hard to not break the law nowadays because so many things are illegal that just make no sense whatsoever. If I have a drone, for instance, and I fly it around for fun in my backyard, it's a quadcopter that I bought for a few $100 at a hobby store, and you want to fly it around, and I get the clever idea that I'll capitalize on this, and I say, oh, okay, $5, you can fly it. Now I'm in violation of the law. Even though I've really done nothing wrong, I'm in violation of FAA regulations. And if somebody in the FAA found out, they would step out of their office and walk down to my place and fine me several $100s for accepting $5 from you, which is, of course, an unjust punishment anyway, because really the reparation should be $5, not several $100s, because that would be a fair and just punishment. You know, eye for an eye. It has to be fair and equal and just. But that's really not what happens when we're talking about a federal government. That's unfortunately the case, but fortunately for us, we have quite a few rights, whether or not they're recognized. We do have them. We have the right to free speech. We have the right to do a lot of things. You know, if you read the Constitution, you'll see several of them, but that's not all of them. And the argument could be made that even if the Constitution disappeared, you'd certainly still have all of your rights. They're not suddenly magically appearing because some guys got together at a meeting and decided to write this on a piece of hemp paper. That's not the case. It's fortunate for us that is not the case. We do have rights, no matter what they say. We do have them. They simply aren't recognized. They're not taking away our rights. They're just ceasing to recognize them. And we can better assert them, of course, in a local environment, a local economy environment. It's much easier to assert your rights that way because there's no federal system to quash them. There's no federal system to step on you and say that you're outside of your rights by selling something to somebody for a lower price than they would like. This is Digital Drive, and I'm your host, Russell. Nuganomics.com is coming up just a few seconds right here on Hot News Talk Radio.
This is a mob mode. This is the mob mode. What kind of fool do you think I know nothing of the
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Surgery does not have to be financially painful. Hi, I'm Surgical Dr. David Red, and I'd like to invite you to my walk-in surgery clinic in North Shore. Quick Surge brings you immediate relief from moles, skin tags, maybe a laceration. Quick Surge. You walk in, fill out a mini form, I numb the area I'll treat, and before you know it, you're on your way home. Do I take insurance? No, because I take cash customers. I have super low and fixed prices. Credit card, check, or cash. Uninsured? Member of the working financially disadvantaged? Choose Quick Surge. I publish prices online. No murk, just sunshine. Hassle-free, pain-free. Love the idea of a personal relationship with a doctor? Drop in with a nasty cut from work. Quick Surge. I'll take care of you. Quick Surge in the Public Center on the North Shore. No insurance hassles with Quick Surge. The national medical system is dysfunctional, overpriced, very alienating. I'm part of the solution, and so are you. Come on home. Quicksurge.com. QUIKSURG. Relief.
When my brother and I opened the first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
You do not have to be living with constant pain. You need to make the choice today to enjoy a revitalized body. You deserve to live a better pain-free life. And Dr. Ross can help. At Ross Chiropractic, failure is not an option. For over 40 years, Dr. Ross, a graduate of the prestigious Palmer College of Chiropractic, prided himself in helping and healing. The Ross method of chiropractic care is unique in developing a treatment designed just for you. And Ross Chiropractic makes this promise to you. If he believes that he can't help relieve your pain, he will guide you to another health practitioner to assist you. Feel better now. You owe it to yourself. You really do. Call Dr. Ross now at 954-9591. That's 954-9591. And visit Dr. Ross at 7405 Shaliford Road, Suite 320. Ross Chiropractic, helping your body heal itself. Because when your spine's in line, you will feel fine. Call 954-9591. That's 954-9591 for Ross Chiropractic.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News. I'm Steve Kaith, and floodwaters are still rising in parts of Texas in areas that have been hit hard with damaged homes and businesses. CBS's Steve Futterman on the situation in Houston.
Many parts of the city of Houston remain flooded. People are being urged, if possible, to stay home. Much of the downtown area has essentially shut down today. Many schools are closed. Streets and some highways have been turned into rivers, and rescue crews continue to search for anyone that may have been trapped inside their cars.
The Austin area has been hit hard, too. Some people were rescued from their homes today, and the surging Blanco River took out a major bridge. Louis Bond lives not far away.
The Fisher Road Bridge was a big concrete, relatively new bridge that's in pieces, and so all of the people on the other side of that bridge have been isolated. It's hard for them. Reconstruction started today.
12 people are missing after their vacation home was swept away. A Texas man's been arrested on charges that he conspired to provide support for ISIS. It's alleged 20 Khan and a friend planned to travel to Turkey, then to Syria. Iraq has launched a new military effort to try to push ISIS out of areas west of Baghdad, including the city of Ramadi. CBS News national security analyst Juan Zarate says it all comes amid a war of words.
What you have is an expression of lack of faith or confidence by the U.S. Defense Secretary in the fighting will and capacity of the Iraqi forces. At the same time, you have the Iraqis shooting back and saying that they were facing an onslaught of ISIS forces without adequate U.S. support.
Amtrak says it's going to install video cameras inside locomotive cabs to record the actions of train engineers, the latest change after the deadly Philadelphia derailment. CBS News transportation safety analyst Mark Rosenkerr.
This clearly would have been a very important tool and an extremely positive way of understanding exactly what happened.
The engineer on the Philadelphia wreck says he can't recall what happened. Just weeks after a plan by Comcast to buy Time Warner Cable was scrapped, Charter Communications has agreed to buy Time Warner for more than $55 billion. CBS News contributor Melody Hobson.
These companies know fewer and fewer people want to pay for TV. Amazon and Netflix have this unique content that is very, very popular. And one day, these channels will be unbundled.
The FCC chairman says regulators will look to see how American consumers will benefit from the deal. New home sales were up 6.8% last month, a bounce back from a very slow April. Danielle Hale is economist with the National Association of Realtors.
A lot of the boost in the housing market that we're starting to see now comes from, several months of strong jobs reports.
And the stronger job market has helped consumer confidence rebound, too, according to the Conference Board. Dow is down 212. This is CBS News.
I'm Jay Farner with some great news on how you could save an average of $3,000 per year on your mortgage. Call Quicken Loans now at 800-QUICKEN to see if you qualify for the government's Home Affordable Refinance Program, or HARP. The HARP guidelines have changed. There's less paperwork and often no appraisal required. Call 800-QUICKEN. That's 800-QUICKEN, or visit QuickenLoans.com.
Important terms and conditions apply. Calls for cost information. Equal housing lender. Licensed all 50 states. And MLS number 3030.
Whew, sounds like a nasty storm. Time to increase the strength and integrity of your roof with the Owens Corning Total Protection Roofing System. Our integrated high-performance layer-by-layer design was created to help keep your home protected and secure all year round. Woo, that is some wind. But inside your house, let Owens Corning and the Pink Panther give your home the Panther touch. Get the Owens Corning Total Protection Roofing System. Visit owenscorning.com/roofing for details. Exclusions apply.
A pay raise once a year used to be one of the givens of the workplace. Not so much now. think bonuses and perks instead.
Back in the 1980s, bonuses barely registered on workplace seismographs, accounting for less than 4% of total compensation. Today, they make up nearly 13%. Those one-time payments, free lunch hour massages, or birthdays off are an attempt to keep workers happy while allowing employers to keep costs down. The New York Times says the problem is that for many workers, their base pay stays frozen even as their cost of living goes up. Vicki Barker, CBS News.
A new study says 6 of the 10 highest paid CEOs in this country work in the media industry. David Zaslav tops the list, taking in $156 million last year. He heads up Discovery Communications. CBS's Les Moonves, number 2, more than $54 million. Packages for CEOs growing for a 5th straight year. Steve Kathan, CBS News.